Hey everybody, thanks for checking out my second video. I'm kind of surprised how many people watched and liked my last one. I'm glad it went over well and seemed to get some good response, so I'll just keep doing some Octane videos and trying to answer as many questions as I can. I had a lot of questions about materials and things like that. I also had other questions about how I tracked my light to certain objects and how I did the focus object. So I'm actually going to show you guys how to do that real quick. This is just the default cube. Say I wanted a light to track to this, so anywhere I moved it, the light would follow. All you do is you add a plane, and I'm going to move it over here. So we can pretend that this is an emissive light source. I'll add another one here too. Now if I move this cube, these guys do not care about this cube. Just delete that light out. I'll go ahead and I'll add a material on here. Let's go over to my shader. And you don't have to follow along, I'm just showing you. So diffuse material. With a diffuse material, you add a blackbody emission. Now we should see something, and it's the wrong way. So here, and I'm actually going to change this to path tracing. So you have path tracing and direct lighting. These are pretty much the only two I use. I use direct lighting if I have a scene that doesn't really require a lot of realism, I guess, or I need to render glass. I don't know if you watched the last video, but there was a part where I made this cube and added thickness, and there were these weird bands. That's because it didn't actually have real light properties, so the light wasn't actually bouncing through glass like it normally would, or shooting through glass, whatever. Hopefully you know what I mean. We'll have examples here in the next couple videos. I'll do some glass renders and I'll show you the difference between path tracing and direct lighting. But for now, let's not get into that. This probably went to the other side too. It did. And you can actually click double-sided. I don't know why I didn't. But if you have that issue, you know where to fix that now. Click double-sided. Okay, so let me add a plane in. Perfect. Greatest scene ever. Let's make this shiny. There we go. Nice glossy material. So when I move this, I want these lights to track with it. So what we'll do is we'll select this light, go over here to constraints, and go to this damp track here. And for my target, I want this to be the cube. And you want it to be on the minus Z, positive Z axis there. And we'll do the same to this. There we go. So now check this out. Let me put this guy here. See how those lights are following it? That's pretty cool. And then you guys had asked about the focus object for the camera. If I look through my camera here, I'm going to add, actually here, we'll do it like this. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to hit Control-Alt-0 to move my camera to this view. And I'm going to make a couple of these cubes real quick. And then I'll put one back here. And then we'll add in an empty. There's the empty. We'll pull that here. Go to camera view. Click your camera. Go to your camera here. And then right here for autofocus, untick this. And you can select the empty. or you can just type it in there. All right, so now drag this aperture kind of ridiculously high up. All right, so check this out. Let me go to my top view. Oh boy. So if I want to focus on this cube, I just drag this guy to the front of that cube, or wherever you want to focus on that cube. If I want to focus back here, then I just drag that guy back there. And that is how you can do a nice, cool rack focus effect. Or you can customize your depth of field. It's pretty sweet. So yeah, those were some questions I had been asked. There was another one about a label on, I don't know if it was clear glass or aluminum foil, if it was a clear logo cutout or if it was a logo on aluminum foil. I'll show that one in my next video. I'm going to put out a couple here pretty quick so you won't have to wait long. But on to today's video, I'm going to do more with texturing, because like I said, I had a lot of people ask about that. So I'm going to start over with a new file. I'm going to select Octane, go to my color management, turn that display device to none. And if you want to know why I'm doing this stuff, or if I'm going too fast, pause or go check out the first video that I put out. That'll help you understand a lot what I'm doing. All right, so let's do a wet road, because a lot of people like wet roads, I've noticed. Octane does a pretty cool job with water and reflection. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a plane, and then I'm going to pull this up. Actually, I'm going to pull this over. I don't know why I like working this way. I don't like working with the shader editor with the screen cut in half. So if we're going to make a wet road, we may as well go grab a image texture. Now my favorite site for textures is this one right here, textures.one. Type in what you want here, search, and I think for this one I grabbed one of these. I think I grabbed this one. Nope, I lied. I grabbed this one because I remember that big crack in it. It really doesn't matter. Pick whatever road or street you want, or asphalt, something like that. And I'll show you something kind of cool. So first we'll add a new material. For this, I want a glossy material here for the asphalt, and I want a glossy material here for the puddle. And what's super cool about Octane is you can still drag and drop your files. So let me go to where I have that road texture download. So I'm going to drag this guy right here, and this is an image texture. So I'm going to plug this one into my diffuse, because this is my color channel, and I'll get the render going over here. We need to add an HDRI in so we can actually see what's going on. So I'll go to world, delete that out. You can actually come over here and change this to a texture environment, and then you can add in a image texture, and you can click open right here and navigate to your HDRIs. I'm going to go and drop in, let's see, I have my HDRIs opened up off screen. Actually, here, I'll just open them up here. Click here, HDRI. I think this was a demo file, or a demo HDRI, render ball. It was from, what was this from? Hold on. Oh, I have to go into my camera view, I think. Oh, I deleted my camera. Let's add a camera. There we go. There we go. Mastering CGI. And we need to change the gamma to 1. I went over that in the last video if you're wondering why. Okay, so here is our road. So go back to our object. And in this road, it came with a ambient occlusion, it came with a roughness, it came with a height. So we need the roughness, and we don't want this to be color, just like regular Blender. Plug that into roughness, and you see here it gives it its roughness properties. And then we want the normal. So let's grab, you know what, I'm looking over at my files and I don't think I grabbed the right one. Hold on, let me delete out these. I want this one. This is the one I did. There it is. So yeah, I want that in the color. And you know what, I'm actually not going to put anything into my roughness here. I'll show you guys why. But I will pull in the roughness and maybe put that into my bump. Or we can pull in the normal. Plug that guy in, which really we could delete that and it'd still look the same. Alright, I think I like the bump better. Even though it wasn't really a bump, I just took the roughness because it's really similar to a bump map and I plugged that in. I kind of like the way that one looks more. But we need to set that to non-color. And then I didn't go over this in the last video, but if you add a color correction node, this is kind of like a multiply node. It's just a little bit more advanced. You have a little more options. You can change the brightness here. So that makes it essentially 0 roughness, and then a little bit of roughness. And then you can change the gamma to make this map even darker. So that'll change your height details. So that kind of gives you some more customization, which is kind of cool. The more customization, the better. That way you can really make it your own, make it different. So this is the asphalt, and I want this one to be the puddle. So I'll zero out the roughness on here, and I'll take this same diffuse map, and I'll plug it in there. And I'll make this a single use one. If I change something here, I don't want it to change up here. And then we'll go ahead and we'll add in the same one here for our bump. And you're not seeing anything happen because this one's just literally floating around. And what we need is we need a mix material node. So now we're blending between the two. If I unplug this, you'll see. So there is the shiny one, our puddle, and there's our regular asphalt one. But I'll plug this back in. And I have this. I just made this in Photoshop real quick. It's not good. It's just a puddle map. And I'll find somewhere to link this for you guys to download. So I'll drag that in here. And I want this to be my factor. And I want it to also go in my bump channel with this bump node. So I'll add another color correction, which again is like a fancy multiply. I'll put, which way do I want this? There we go. All right, let me set my camera up how I want it. Yeah, let's look at this puddle. All right, so here is our wet ground. And what's super cool is you can adjust the gamma on this. And you can shrink your puddle, expand your puddle. You can come down here and play with the gamma between these two guys. Really shrink and expand it. And you couldn't do that with a normal multiply node. That's why I really like the color correction node, just because you can do so much with it, and you can still come over here and adjust it even farther. So that's super cool. And what's awesome about Octane and path tracing is it's so fast. So if I set this power to like 0.25, and then let's add in a UV sphere. Just gonna scale this down. And I want this to be glass. Because usually when you have a lot of reflection and water and you get glass in the scene, it really slows down in cycles. So if you remember, we want specular for glass. We'll put that in there. We'll kill its roughness, make it smooth. And I like doing scattering, volume scattering. Let's see, plugging that into the medium. Turning this all the way up. I don't think we want any absorption. Giving it a low density. Let's see. Trying to remember how I made that one. Maybe I did one absorption. What did I do? 0.1? Of course it's not working. I made this like 3 times. Okay. Yeah, 0.1. No absorption here. And then there we go. I just wanted this a cool blue. There was no actual like real reason why I was making it like that. I just thought it looked cool. Let me constrain it to that view right there. Yeah, that's super awesome looking. It's so fast too. And then if we want, we could even throw some emission in there, just to make it even cooler looking. Let's do this one and this one. So if you want 2 different materials on the same object, same thing as Blender, add a new material there, and then assign. And then I want this to be emissive. So I'm going to make this diffuse. Add a blackbody emission to it. This will think. If you get stuck thinking, just stop the render. You know what I actually want to do? I want to inset this. ES. I'm just bringing that in a little bit. There we go. That should look kind of cool. I'm gonna look through my camera here. Render. Let's make that smooth. Oop, put it into the emission, not the medium. And it's still not glowing. Of course not. Blackbody in the emission. Oh, for some reason I clicked shadow catcher. Make sure you don't click shadow catcher. That will make it not work. And then you can kind of get this to the brightness that you want. There. And then if you wanted a certain color, We can add a RGB spectrum into the texture. Look at that. It's actually lighting up the ground too. It is crazy powerful. And what's super cool is you can come over here to your camera and go to your camera imager. You can add some bloom, then your glare, and then like I said in the last video, I like one glare, and I like it long ways, so it's like anamorphic style. So you can really turn that glare up because you can blur it. Kind of turn it down how you like it then. Yeah, that's so cool. So we've got 4K textures here. We've got glow going, and we've got glass and reflection, and this is super fast rendering. Like that's why I use Octane. That's why I love it. I've not found a GPU renderer that renders this fast with the photorealism pretty much right off the bat. And we haven't even gone to our camera and set up our render settings so it'll actually look proper if we render it. So there. Now with these settings, like I said in the last video, they'll render just like the viewport. But if you want to add some style, you can go over here to the LUTs, start scrolling through them, seeing what you like. I'm holding down Control and I'm rolling my middle mouse button. And then you can adjust your saturation. There's just so much you can do in camera before you render that it saves so much time on post-production because you can get it essentially there. I think I like this one. You can fine tune your stuff over here. Kind of get the image how you want it. But I'm just going to leave it there. And where was that one? Darkish green. Oh, that one's cool. I like that one. We'll mess with that. Up the gamma a little bit, make it a little brighter. Bump the exposure. If I see that something's blown out, you can do that highlight compression. And it kind of cuts down on the really, really bright spots. We don't really need it in this one. And then if I don't like the size of this puddle, we can come back over here to this gamma. We can adjust little puddle with a little bit of bumpies. Big puddle, huge puddle. And then you can come up here. And I feel like this one affects it similarly like this one, but I don't know, I tweak a lot. Like I don't think I saw that little cutout before when I was just messing around with some of these. Yeah, there's so many different options. Oh, you know what? I just noticed this is not a non-color. Where else did I do that? Non-color, non-color. Okay, we're good. Cool. And say you want to do like a fresh rain, you can actually drag this roughness all the way down. And then this bump, put this to like 0.15. And then you've kind of got more of a wet looking asphalt. Or zero it out, and you've got a super wet asphalt. But maybe 0.05. There we go. So the spread there makes this kind of look like it's freshly rained. Everything's still wet. Lots of highlights. Yeah, that's cool. How that light's coming in like that. So yeah, that was just kind of a quick rundown on materials. And this is very, very similar to cycles. I mean, this is essentially a mix RGB or mix shader. And then the amount is the factor. You can add displacement in here, which is pretty cool. Imagine these are two principal nodes, and this is a more advanced multiply node. And then just like normal, you've got your image textures. I kind of wanted to make this one a little bit shorter so you guys could play around with maybe this setup, play around over here in your camera settings to kind of get the look you want. Because I wanted to show you another really cool feature about Octane. If I go over here and I enable adaptive sampling, it's kind of like a denoiser. And then we come over, where's my layers? There we go. Here, we can check out all these Octane passes. So you can view just your emitter. You can view your noise. So you should start seeing things turn green. And this is the adaptive sampling. When this realizes, okay, I'm good, I'm pretty much noise free, it turns green, and then it starts working in other areas to start making those better. And what's really cool is, say you have a super noisy image and you're trying to figure out how many samples you need, you can go Control B and say I wanted this area to be really, really clean. When this gets to the threshold I like, I just look up here and see how many samples it would take. So that's saying 22,000, but in reality, if I go to my combined, I mean, you really aren't picking up any noise, which is just awesome. I mean, I'm already at 1,300, 1,700, and I'm running on a single 2070 right now. Oh, 2070 Super. So this one's running my monitor, this one's running Blender. And I think if you pay, what is it, $39 a month, you can sign up for the enterprise version of Octane. And I believe that one lets you use 2 GPUs. Lets you use 2 GPUs and all the other software, so I'd imagine it would allow you to use it here. I could be wrong. I'm usually wrong, but well, I mean, one is rendering really fast. That's so cool how we've got 2 lights here, specularity, reflection, and it's virtually noise free already. That's just so cool. Okay, anyways, so say you want to render out this guy here, but you want some other passes with it. You can go to compositing now and use nodes before your render. And I'm going to set up a quick folder here on my desktop. Let's see. All right, new folder. Perfect name. All right, so over here, I'm going to use Octane render layers and say I want that emitter render, or I want some shadow, actually this shadow, and say I want my Z depth so I can composite some cool effects in afterwards. I want to make sure the Z depth looks okay. I learned that sometimes it's always white or always black, and you can actually come down here into your info, change it to your Z depth paths, and you can adjust the Z depth how you like it. Because if it's like this or like this, I'd recommend adjusting it. Like, I don't want all those bands that are going across. I want to fall off from dark to light. There we go. Okay. And you can go through and check anything you want. And there's a ton of different options here. So let's go back to compositing. And now we have these 4 new, I can't think, images we're going to render out. So I'm going to drop a file output, and all I'm doing is hitting Shift A and S and typing file output. So I'm going to make 4 of these. I'm just going to paste that path in off my desktop. And then what I'll do is I'll render this guy. I'm not going to do a lot of samples because I don't want this to take forever. So I'm just going to do like 100 samples. And I'm going to hit F12. It's going to render. Give this a sec. It's processing up there. All right, so it's finished. And now, actually, you know what? I lied to you guys. In the compositing, here, give these a name. So, emitter, and what was this guy? Shadow. And then we're going to do Z depth, and then object ID. There. Now render. I'll try to pull up that folder real quick. Desktop. New folder. All right. So here we go. We should see some stuff populate. There we go. That's what I was trying to get. So you have to add a name. Just going to delete that. And then if I go to extra large, check that out. I've got my Z-depth pass for compositing. I like After Effects. I've got my shadow. Again, we used low samples, so that's why it's so noisy. My shadow pass, my object ID pass. And then my emitter, which you could actually change the color of this, even though you'd still have a red reflection, like light cast coming off of it. You could change this in post, kind of give it a cool effect. And then naturally you'd want to save this guy too. So image, save as, and save it wherever. And then one other cool thing is, say I just want to render this guy for some reason. So I'll come down here. Actually, I don't even need to make this anything. I'll go to this guy, and I will give this a layer ID. So I'll say I want this a layer ID 2, because this is on layer ID 1. And say I've got a whole bunch of things modeled, but I only want this to be rendered. I would pretty much leave all these at layer ID 1, select this, and here I'll do an example. I'll put a cube down. And I'll kind of block this right here. Yeah, there we go. So I want this. So what we can do is go to these layers over here. And I'm just going to turn off all my different render passes. Now I'm going to enable the render here. And I only want active ID 2. So now when I render, see that? That's all I see. And we don't even see this because this wasn't part of it. And what's super cool about this, let's do alpha channel. I've done renders before, and people are like, "Oh, that's super cool," but you know, I wanted this to be green, not blue. So instead of going back and rendering the whole thing, and you know, I want all the lights, and I want the surroundings and all the reflections of the other objects in this. I don't want to re-render that whole scene. So sometimes I'll just go in here Oops, I forgot we're on, yeah, pretend I wanted that green. I wanted that green, and then all I have to do is click render, and this works in an animation too. We'll render this, and you'll just get that, which is awesome. If you're doing something like this with emission, you'd have to grab the reflection as well, and you'd probably have to grab the emission, which luckily I haven't ever had to fix that before. I've only had to change colors of just objects, nothing with any crazy emission like that. And what's super cool is it'll work in an animation. So this guy here, I'll keyframe its location. I'll come over here and I'll do its location. And then if we render, we can even render an animation and ignore all other objects except the thing we want to change. So you essentially take this new render and whatever you're compositing in, slap that on top of your first animation, and this will totally block out what you wanted to fix. It's pretty cool. That's another reason why you can use object IDs, and you can mask stuff off based off those colors it gives you. But that's more of an advanced tutorial. A little more than I wanted to get into tonight. I didn't want to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but I wanted to kind of show actually making a material, making something that somebody may be interested in using. Not this, but I always click that first. I don't know why. There, like this road. That could come in handy for people. So yeah, there you go. So a quick introduction, a little bit more advanced material setup. I've got a couple more videos planned that are pretty cool. I'll probably go a lot slower on those because they're going to be a little bit different than things you would do in cycles. This is very, very familiar if you're familiar with cycles and EV node setups. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, put them in the comments. I try to answer everybody's question. Sometimes I can't. Like it was kind of hard how to explain the damp track thing. That was where we tracked in the very beginning of the video. We tracked the lights to an object. So yeah, hopefully you like this tutorial. I'll have a lot more coming, and I'll try to not make them as long. I don't like to do cuts. I don't like people, like if I mess up, like I did a couple times here, I want to actually fix it on camera. I don't want to cut and come back to it and have it already fixed. That way you guys, if you run into the issue, you know what to do. So yeah, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Please subscribe. That would be awesome. Yeah, and hopefully I'll have some models here for you to download, and I'll try to link that texture, that wet map texture. But if you Google puddle texture, you can find a couple. I don't really have anything set up to download anything right now, so I'll try to get that in the coming days. All right, well, thanks for watching the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.